Hello and welcome to World Insight with me, Tian Wei, coming to you live from Beijing on CGTN. Coming up on today's program, before China's two sessions draw to a close, I sit down with two prominent CPPCC members. First up, the pulse on managing the nation's financial risks with Zhang Yichen of CITIC Capital Holdings. And in another straight talk tonight, what's so special about the melting pot of Hong Kong's West Kowloon arts and culture? With Henry Tang Ying-yen, a CPPCC Standing Committee member this year. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
If we move together, we can have a dance.
Straight into the eyes.
Poverty alleviation achievement in China is unprecedented.
To me, it's a responsibility.
Straightforward and straight into the new era.
To know more and to sense more.
Straight Talk with Tian Wei from the two sessions. Yes, indeed. Let's go to our interviews from the two sessions. One of the biggest battles China has decided to take on in the coming 3 years is to reduce the risks in the financial sector. Speaking in Davos in January on China's priorities for the next 3 years, Chinese Vice Premier Liu He reiterated China's firm commitment to financial regulation and market-oriented policies, further opening the country's gates with deeper reforms amid a shift towards quality-driven growth. Now, let's go to Straight Talk. That's both the name and the style of our exclusive interview series featuring big names coming from all walks of life in China during the two sessions. Today, let's meet Zhang Yichen, a CPPCC member and also chairman and CEO of CITIC Capital Holdings. He tells us about the prospect of China's economy, both its financial stability and the prospect of Chinese companies going global. Mr. Zhang, welcome to CGTN.
Thank you for having me again.
It's a great pleasure to have you. Now, China is talking about the three risks over the next 3 years that needs to be worked on. One of them is reduce the risk in the financial sector. You are, of course, working in the financial sector, PE particularly. So what does it mean to you?
I think it's been talked for a while.
Quite some time.
The financial risk that's built up in the system, specifically the debt to GDP ratio. I think at this point is over 250%. I think the general view in the international investment community has been it's very high risk. That's why during World Economic Forum in the past several years, every year, the main theme seems to be when is China going to collapse. I have always taken the view that it is a risk that we should watch out for, but fundamentally China is well equipped to deal with that risk, largely because the savings supporting that leverage is mainly domestic.
Right.
Second, the form of that leverage is mostly in the form of bank loans rather than capital markets, so it's much easier to control, especially given the Chinese government controls most of the banks.
Right.
So the main focus is to try to reduce it gradually without actually triggering a systematic collapse or burst of a bubble.
But what about for your industry?
For my industry, in the private equity industry in China, we don't deploy that much, we do not employ that much leverage, unlike our counterparts in the U.S. Because fundamentally, when we decide to do a investment, the return mainly comes from growth, comes from restructuring, improving efficiency, rather than from pure financial engineering, which is just by piling up the leverage. However, the issue is that there are a number of shadow banking products that pretend to be PE product, but in essence, it's really debt product. Those may have issues. But overall, by and large, PE at the end of the day is equity-based investment. So increase in private equity investment is actually good for the overall economy, given that there are two ways to reduce leverage. One is try to reduce debt.
Right.
The other way is actually trying to increase equity. Then proportionally, the leverage will not be as large.
You once said, Mr. Zhang, that your company aspires to become China's Blackstone. I just wonder, how is that process going on so far? People have been talking about China model, China practice. What is your thought about that?
The private equity industry started to develop in the U.S. Well over 30 years ago, and Blackstone is a pioneer of that and has been leading the industry. So it's a great model for us to aspire to. The U.S. economy is a lot more conducive to private equity type of investment because changing ownership is fairly mundane. In China, it's not nearly as easy, and China is also characterized by fast growth, so which means venture capital and growth capital are the dominant form of investment. But by nature, they are a lot smaller versus leveraged buyouts. So I think as the economy in China matures, the private equity investment will mature as well. So I think that bodes well for us in terms of growing our size.
That sounds terrific. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're a state-owned enterprise.
We are mixed ownership.
Mixed ownership at
We
this
have
point.
CITIC as our sponsor, but we also have Tencent, plus the management. We also have foreign investors, like Qatar Investment. We also have investor from Taiwan, Fubon Financial Holdings.
Have Tencent and companies like Alibaba been transforming the whole industry, like your industry, in a way?
In terms of investment in the growth in new economy, certainly. You can see that they are dominant these days increasingly in venture investment as well.
Right.
A lot of, they back all the sometimes opposing camps for example, transportation in O2O and so on and so forth.
That's right.
That's on one side. But on the other hand, they have been integrating themselves more and more into the real economy.
So you don't see a crisis for you?
No, definitely not.
Not at all.
I think at this point it's more complementary because they represent more strategic investment angle. We tend to focus more on the financial aspects.
Well, that is not only about China's financial risks, it's also about how Chinese companies are going global and inviting big names to come into China while being the manager of that company here in China. McDonald's, the global fast food chain, forged a new partnership in China last year. On January the 9th, the CITIC Group officially announced that CITIC Capital and the Kowloon Group had reached a strategic agreement to form a joint venture. The new company is the main franchise holder of McDonald's business in China's mainland and Hong Kong. The chairman of the new McDonald's China unit, Zhang Yichen, tells us how well the chain's golden arches translated into Chinese. Actually, it is quite a story. Mr. Zhang, you and your company transformed in a way the operations of McDonald's in China, and there has been a lot of stories related to it, starting from its name.
Well, since we have taken over the business that's holding all the McDonald's restaurants in China, so essentially we're the master franchisee for McDonald's. So the company that we own cannot be called McDonald's anymore, since McDonald's is not the majority shareholder.
Okay.
So we had to pick a name. They said, well, we will let you to use the Chinese translation of Golden Arches. The Golden Arches in the U.S. is actually synonymous with McDonald's. Anytime you say Golden Arches, people naturally understand that's a McDonald's.
But in Chinese, it's not.
In Chinese, it's not. My feedback initially, I said, are you kidding me? Golden Arches in Chinese sounds like a jewelry store. But in the end, I said, okay, fine.
Okay.
You know, we just use Golden Arches. So I used the Chinese translation, 金拱门. And we didn't try to. I know. It was actually the social marketing event of the year in China. So much user-generated content on that. All kinds of jokes, all kinds of people making fun of it.
Everywhere.
I got free marketing. You know, the amazing thing is the number is astounding.
Really?
It's total of 9 billion clicks.
You seem to have a big smile on your face when you're talking about that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That made me famous. So a lot of times I introduce myself as chairman of CITIC Capital. It doesn't really ring the bell. If I tell them I'm chairman of Jingongmen, that's what they immediately their eyes all light up. So that started with the name change. Then, you know, last year McDonald had done really well in China, and it was largely driven by 3 things. The first is we clearly identified delivery as a major trend, and for major cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, the delivery already account for almost 25% of the total income, and that is a huge growth driver because the cost associated with that growth is very low.
And I guess McDonald's worldwide, they have never had this like before.
They try to launch this delivery. For example, this past year they launched in the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
But I think this is largely dependent on the country, in the sense that the consumption habit is one thing.
Yes.
Second, the population density is clearly another issue. And third, the cost of delivery.
Right.
Yeah. In China, you have all those 3 things going in our favor. In the U.S., you don't.
Is there something that you think these messages they can get and also spread around in their practices worldwide?
Oh, absolutely. They very much, their CEO, Steve Easterbrook, told me so.
Excited.
Yeah, he was very excited in November when I was telling him the results. And he said, you guys are pioneers in this, and your experience could be very useful for McDonald globally.
Mr. McDonald is learning from Mr. Golden Arches. So
well, in some ways, that's the first driver. And second is digital marketing. In China now, almost 60% of the payment in McDonald's, you know, is electronic. Basically, mainly WeChat Pay and Alipay.
Yeah, mobile
payment. So you actually know exactly who is buying your product, what they're buying, when they're buying, how frequently they buy it. So once you have that data, in terms of further marketing, it's very, very powerful. That's why we have this customer loyalty program. So you collect this data, you push, you know, if someone likes crispy chicken and hasn't come in for 3 weeks, you push them a coupon. Right? So all these marketing methods are extremely effective, and it's mind-boggling. I mean, it opens the eyes for a lot of people.
When you think about that, only one example you have just raised, but dramatic changes already happening, great transformation as well, as to how a company coming from outside and how its businesses is likely to be transformed inside the Chinese market, and how this market is likely to give the feedback and experiences and get it spread to elsewhere for this company. Fundamentally,
China is such a large market. A lot of multinationals, when they first come into China over the last 20-some years, they have great product, they have great management, they have great technology, and they are head and shoulders above the local competition. But in the last 20 years, a lot of local competitors catch up.
Right.
A lot of these multinationals actually haven't really changed their practices. A lot of times they are not changing for good reasons, because they are a global company, and at the end of the day, they want to keep a uniform standard. But my point is always that for a small market, you may not want to change because the trade-off is not necessarily favorable. But for a market like China, you almost always have to change. And a lot of multinationals develop their practices based on the U.S. market, given that was the largest market.
Right.
So I think that's why I applaud the McDonald management for making the decision to team up with us to develop the China business.
China business experience certainly can be spreading to the other parts of the world, even though there are things that could be popping up from time to time. For example, the White House recent announcement of the new tariffs on steel and aluminum is raising fears of a possible trade war. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said China hoped to fix bilateral trade issues with the U.S. in a constructive manner. How tough is it for Chinese companies to do business in the U.S., and how difficult is it for Chinese companies to try to cooperate with the U.S. partners? Zhang Yichen has some answer. Some of your business projects related to acquisitions worldwide, including in the U.S. market, but that, Mr. Zhang, could be very sensitive, some say, given the current geopolitical environment.
I do agree. It is somewhat a concern, but we have been very careful. We have invested in the U.S. in a number of companies in the past, and we have always made sure we comply with all the relevant rules and regulations.
What kind of company? Pharmaceutical company, consumer products?
Or consumer product companies or service companies, some manufacturing companies. We have a great track record in helping these companies develop their market in China. So I think it is a win-win type of a situation. Similar with GNC. You know, GNC is in financial distress. The main potential for us in terms of growth for GNC is to form that joint venture in China, try to build their business here.
You see the changes going on in the White House regarding trade, the official movement in a way, and also you see the sentiment on the Capitol Hill regarding China-U.S. relations, particularly about trade. Midterm election coming. What is your understanding of the latest situation? You know, for you, how to avoid the ultimate risk?
Well, we have to be mindful of that.
Did I see a long sigh from you?
Yeah, because it's a tough question. So I think fundamentally trade and investment is good for everyone. We are putting money to work in the U.S. and the work we do, the investment we make, will create jobs in the U.S. Now, given GNC is a consumer product company and there shouldn't be that much political sensitivity involved.
This is the annual season when people from all walks of life come together and talk about the future of the country. What kind of country do we aspire to be? Where do we want to go? That goal, that future, to you, what exactly is it?
I think that's well spelled out by the Chinese leadership already, that we are trying to build a country that's open, democratic, as well as harmonious, in which people can live a prosperous life. Almost all the Chinese over the last 40 years, they have seen their life improving almost daily. I think the leadership made a pledge to take it to the next level. So at this point, our GDP per capita is roughly about $8,800 US, and you know, there's certainly still room for us to grow. As we discussed before, the Chinese people want a better life. That's where our the whole country is going. Of course, given China is such a large country, that we will be playing an increasingly leading role in the international affairs. We are getting closer to the center stage of the world. With that comes responsibility, and I think President Xi Jinping, during his speech in Davos last year, made it very clear that China is ready to take on that responsibility. At the same time, China does not seek to endanger anybody else's interest. China would like to keep the current international order. At the same time, China is a champion of globalization, international trade. So from all that perspective, I genuinely believe that a more prosperous China is better for the world.
That is Zhang Yichen talking about China's economic growth and also financial stability. Stay with us on World Insight. Still to come on our program. Hong Kong's West Kowloon is home to a hodgepodge of arts and culture. We will learn why it's such an important bridge with the mainland from Henry Tang Ying-yen, a CPPCC Standing Committee member, right after this break. You're watching a special edition on the 2 sessions on World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Dare to ask the tough questions and taking concrete actions in looking for solutions. No one should doubt the courage and the audacity of China in its determination to strive to be better. That's what I find out with our exclusive interview series named Straightforward and Straight Talk. At the 2 sessions, there is one episode of our Weigh the World segment. Let's take a look. What does China aspire to become? The country's annual political season is the best time to figure out some answers to that question. As the 2 sessions are not just about political meetings, but also the best time to feel the pulse of China. I started with a person of unique vision. Yao Ming, the NBA pro, who is now the president of China Basketball Association. No wonder he was the flag bearer during the Beijing Olympic Games and also leading Team China.
Have you heard a very famous 3 questions for Chinese Olympics? When Chinese athletes can compete in Olympic Games, which that be answered by Liu Changchun in 1932 in Los Angeles. He's a 100-meter sprinter. And when China can win a medal for it, that's answered by 1984 Xu Haifeng. He won the first gold medal at pistol shooting. And when China can host the Olympics, that's answered by entire country in 2008.
The meaning of growing could be about the capability of asking oneself hard questions. More importantly, it should be also about taking actions to try to figure out the answers to the questions. Ding Lei is the first-generation tech firm founder. He has attracted over the years more attention than his peers because he has been doing one important experiment. He began raising pigs after becoming concerned about China's livestock industry. At the very beginning, people thought it was a gimmick and a marketing trick he has invented. However, as his experiment began to yield success, people realized that he is serious.
I think the very important thing is we as entrepreneurs should have an idea that through technology and innovation we can help backward industries achieve development. One person can't handle a big pig farm. It needs an organization and enough patience. Although we spent 7 years raising pigs, the result is satisfactory.
That can-do spirit seems to be the common thread linking many of the NPC deputies and CPPCC members. Not only them, even the special invitees. Yang Peidong is a fresh example. One of the world's leading scientists, he has won numerous respect for developing oxygen using sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide. That technology could enable human beings to reach the outer space, such as the red planet Mars. Besides that, he does believe China's basic research could make a great leap forward if the system to acquire the world's best talents could be improved.
The efforts I was involved in Shanghai is to build up their physical science school in Shanghai Tech University. We give them financial support to run their research. They have total freedom to run their research. Then 5 years later, we'll evaluate based on their accomplishment. During this process, from very beginning, it's called recruiting. Right. We recruit them. But the next 5-6 years, there's retention issue.
Dare to ask the hard but necessary questions. Dare to experiment and find the answers, and dare to deal with the fundamental issues. One could imagine with that kind of audacity and many concrete actions to tackle the problems, China is on its way to perfect itself and eventually contribute to the bigger cause of making the world a better place. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
If we move together, we can have a dance.
Straight into the eyes.
Poverty alleviation achievement in China is unprecedented.
For me, it's a responsibility.
Straightforward and straight into the new era.
To know more and to sense more.
Straight Talk with Tian Wei from the 2 sessions. So let's go straight forward to the straight talks. Next up, meet Henry Tang Ying-yen, a CPPCC Standing Committee member this year and also chairman of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority in Hong Kong. Hong Kong's growth comes with one big ticket item in the pipeline, the Greater Bay Area project. The Greater Bay Area includes the Hong Kong SAR, Macau SAR, and 9 cities in Guangdong province, including Guangzhou and Shenzhen. It is designed to improve regional cooperation and integration among major cities of the Pearl River Delta. To step up regional integration, the newly completed Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge will cut the journey time among 3 cities from 3 hours to just 30 minutes. Yes, 30 minutes. The Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong high-speed railway will also cut travel time drastically. Mr. Tang said connectivity and efficiency are key to achieving this goal, a golden opportunity that cannot be mixed. The Greater Bay Area, that is one big project the central government is talking about.
Yes.
Many in Hong Kong are also excited about it. But, Mr. Tan, the question is how to put it into a concrete plan, how to make sure efficiency, connectivity really happening.
I believe the Greater Bay Area is a golden opportunity that if we do not grab it, someone else will grab it, and someone else will take that away from us.
Right.
And I think we are in a perfect position to do so.
But the most important thing is to make sure that connectivity is happening, and that connectivity is happening on an efficient basis for the common folks, so that you got people moving around, and they come to Hong Kong, and then they go to other places. But that process could be challenging, because the debate is already happening.
Well, actually, we're going to bring people from the whole of China, especially the Greater Bay Area, directly to West Kowloon because of the high-speed rail. The terminus is right at West Kowloon.
Right.
But that is not the only connectivity. We have an international airport that serves about 1,000 flights a day. And it is something where we're very proud of. It's a very efficient, very nice airport, and we're building a 3rd runway.
It's not just about the transportation. It's about how to streamline the administrative system as well, so that real connectivity could take place. So how does that work?
It works better and better now. Of course, because with the 2 system, there will be certain checks and balances in the 2 system, which is essential to ensure the integrity of the 2 system. But we are setting up co-located boundary checkpoints.
Yes.
We have a very successful experience with the Western crossing. Now we are going to build one in West Kowloon, so it will facilitate the people going in and out.
It sounds like a great picture, but I understand the plan is still underway so far.
Yes.
What do you consider, Mr. Tan, as the biggest challenge that people have to work it out?
It's just a continuous process to instill confidence in the people that the co-location is a good thing.
Yes.
So I believe the vast majority of Hong Kong people are supportive of this initiative.
Mr. Tang and his family served extensively on various government boards and public bodies. He has long devoted himself to upgrading West Kowloon. The district is an international-grade arts and culture hub in the heart of Hong Kong. He believes the district will bridge the cultural divide between Hong Kong and the rest of the world, and certainly will serve as an entry point while Hong Kong is transforming its economy and its culture into the future. You know better than anybody else about the challenges originally appeared in this project, over the years, eventually get to where we are, the operation stage. Every architecture in this project has been of center of debates. Even the cultural district itself, $21.6 billion in its plan, has been a big debate. The one who is responsible for this project has been at the center of hot debates.
Yes.
2 previous ones resigned before their terms finished.
Yes.
This is a controversial project to begin with. How do you see the years while this project from the center of controversy to eventually we're coming to a period of operation?
Although I'm not a media professional, but I always believe there is no bad press. There can only be not enough media coverage.
You're an optimistic person to begin with, aren't you?
I have seen from the design stage, the planning stage, to now beginning the operational stage. But we are still designing the music center. We're still going to design the retail dining, the hotel office, the exhibition and the exhibition hall, etc. So we're still in the planning and designing. But I very much have the confidence that when the project gets going, the Hong Kong people will all be proud of it. I hope, being at the nexus of the high-speed rail, the terminus, they will come out to a piazza. They turn right, and the whole cultural district is in front of you. Walk straight, and you can see the whole harbor view. So this is the kind of space that we are creating.
You got 24 board members.
Yes.
They have very different interests. They have very different views on how issues move forward. How do you incorporate all of these personalities and certainly people with power and capacity together?
Because we all share the same goal.
Come on, that's too diplomatic an answer, Mr.
No,
Tan.
it is the truth. We all want to build the best cultural district in the world.
But the best is
Now,
different interpretation.
The best must have diversity. If it is too uniform, everybody thinks the same way, it will be boring and we will fail. So therefore, we thrive on diversity. Hong Kong people thrives on diversity. So that's why the 24 board members, the hundreds of team members we have at the West Kowloon District Authority, and all the government departments, they share the same goal. We want to build the best. Yes, of course we argue, and of course we have disagreements, but this is the strength of Hong Kong.
What is the best way to come to a consensus for you at this current position?
While on the one hand we want to build the best, but on the other hand, we also want to ensure that it is financially stable and sustainable.
At the very beginning, when you as the non-official chief to come back to the West Kowloon Cultural District project, during that ceremony you said to Carrie Lam, you have a conversation with her on the stage, and you said, I'm grateful that the chief executive reappointed me. That specific sentence has been echoing among many who know you well. They are suggesting that they are seeing one gentleman with big heart. After all of these ups and downs, eventually coming back to this project, how this project, Mr. Tan, from the very beginning until today, has helped you to grow as an individual?
Carrie and I have a very special relationship. We were colleagues in government. She was one of my biggest supporter when she was at the Home Affairs Bureau when I did the failed goods and services tax consultation, but I thought it was actually a constructive debate, and it was necessary at that time, even though we didn't go ahead with the tax for various reasons. And I respect Carrie for what she has done and her motivations and her dedication to Hong Kong. So the reason I have agreed to take up the chairmanship, knowing that it's going to be a huge challenge and a lot of work, and I don't get paid for it, is because I feel very strongly about this project. I was the first chairman. I practically designed it. I was the original architect of it. And subsequent chief secretaries have very, very much been driven to make this project the best that Hong Kong can show the world. So I am grateful that all the previous chairmen that have been very, very dedicated and motivated by the project and put in a lot of work. And I'm grateful to have that opportunity at this important moment as it launched into the operational stage to chair it again.
What about Hong Kong's future as a whole, in which West Kowloon is part of it? How is Hong Kong going to make sure a renewed future? That is something a lot of people are scratching their head and trying to come up with a solution and answer. What do you think, Mr. Tang?
Under the one country, two system, we are able to contribute to the development of the modernization and the development of China, but at the same time also reap some of the benefits of this development. We will continue to focus a lot on high-end services, on financial services, on trading, but culture is actually a new element. It is an element that I believe will propel Hong Kong to the next level. We will be able to have the liberty and the freedom to curate from all our collection, to present what we feel is tasteful and intellectually interesting, whether it's a performing art or a visual art. But at the same time, we are going to present people with a different way of enjoying a city.
But the efficiency of Hong Kong these days, because of enormous amounts of rounds of debates, has become quite a big problem, some say.
It is something that a developed economy and a developing economy do have a difference. In a developing economy, people are used to things happening very fast. In a developed economy, people have to get used to that there are hoops and barriers that you have to go through.
Like you talk about competition, you know yourself, there are enormous competition all around, anytime.
Just building a building is not enough, because a building is still a shell. No matter how beautiful the building is, it is still a shell. What is the content, the soft power, is even more important. So therefore, like you said, in Hong Kong, if I want to build a building, we have to go through all the hoops, like town planning board or the buildings codes and so on and so forth. It does take longer. But this is a system. It is a system that evolved over many, many years. And I will not blame the system for anything, but rather to work within the system, because I was part of the system myself. But on the other hand, I also believe that with this longer process, people understand the project even more.
Mr. Tang, what a pleasure to see you again. And all the best for the West Kowloon Cultural District and certainly your work. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Henry Tang Ying-yen, the CPPCC Standing Committee member, talking about his favorite project, the West Kowloon Art District in Hong Kong, and how that city is likely to propel into the future with the transformation. That is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Insight CGTN into your search engine or check out our YouTube channel. Also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Sina Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Insight team, thanks for watching. Tune in again next time for insights across China and around the world. Good night.